This podcast is called The Coaching Life. And it's hosted by me and, well, my name is Chris Stewart.
Hey, Chris.
It's hosted by us, by we, right?
You're the host. I'm the co-host.
And no, that's not the way it works. So this is my buddy over here on the other microphone, Patrick Martin. How are you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Deal. I'm doing well. I'm doing good. I know that's not grammatically correct, but I say that because I don't want to stay there. See, this podcast is hosted by two guys who are not satisfied with good. Can I say that about you, Coach?
Yes.
Right? But you know, and it's not that you don't have moments where, you know, you kind of sink into a rut, right? But we want to pursue great. And I think we've done this now for 2.5 years, especially because we want to help others pursue greatness and to achieve and to find that incredible fulfillment of what it means to not just be good enough, but to be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is our 111th episode of the Coaching Life podcast. It will be our final episode of 2021. We're going to wrap up this year with a really great conversation. Wrap up season 5 with a really great conversation today.
Season 5.
Season 5. So on the other side of the new year, we will have a new season 6, a rebranded podcast, ready to go. Hit the ground running in 2022.
People might be worried about what we're saying there with that.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be that different for those who've been listening, right? But, so every now and then you got to refresh yourself. Yeah, got to refresh. Got to take a shower every now and then. You got to clean things up a little bit. We want to clean this podcast up a little bit, right?
Sure.
Yeah. You got to
Sounds good to me.
You got to reevaluate what you're doing and look ahead and see what are some of the goals that you want to achieve in the next months and year ahead, and then go for it. I mean, we've been doing this for 2.5 years.
It's crazy. It doesn't seem like that long.
Yeah.
And we talked about it before where a lot of our time has been spent remote.
That's true. I think we're catching up, but the majority of the podcast episodes were done remotely. You're right.
And that doesn't
didn't feel like it.
It does. No, it
Yeah.
didn't. It
Yeah.
didn't. It seemed like it was very different. And,
Right.
I never got used to it.
Oh, me either.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get used to that. Well, let's get to work.
Let's do it.
Let me read you a quote. John D. Rockefeller said, "Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great." Because only when we get ourselves out of the comfort of good
there.
can we move on to be great. And there's a lot to be said about that. I had the idea for this particular conversation, I guess you can say, to maybe you and I create an episode based on this. Last week I was at the grocery store with my wife. Well, actually, it wasn't the grocery store. It was we did a little bit of Christmas shopping. And I know I gave you a heck about following your wife around the mall after she deadlifts 325 and ties you to a leash and pulls you to the mall. But no, I'm teasing.
We're still not done Christmas shopping either.
Well, I think
stressful.
we finished it up. But
Did you? Good
yeah.
for you.
So, but we had this cart, full of stuff, and we took it out to our car. It was 23 degrees. The wind was blowing. It was drizzly, and we put this stuff in. We had April's van. We put the stuff in the van, and I had this thought of there were other carts like near our car, like taking up a parking space. Almost like, in between parking spaces, not necessarily taking up the parking space.
It'd make it hard to park there.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had this thought of adding my cart to that one. It's like these carts are already there. So I'm just going to add my cart to that one. And I started to do it. And I thought to myself, that's not who you are. So instead of taking my cart and adding it to that one, I actually grabbed all of those carts and walked them a good 30 yards down to the nearest. I understand. I mean, it was horrible weather and the closest cart return thing was really far away. But on my walk back to the car, the thought that I had was, that's not a huge deal. And a lot of people might hear that and go, come on, is that really an issue of goodness, a good or great? But I thought to myself, you know what? That's the reason why people aren't great, though, because we settle for that kind of stuff. Just good enough, right? I got rid of the cart, right? But do things the right way, I think is going to help you get out of that rut of just good enough. Just good enough isn't good enough.
Yeah, I would say what you did wasn't necessarily great.
Right.
But it was
certainly not.
But it was good, and you did it. Right? You could have passed it up. You used the word comfort there a little bit ago.
Well, and the comfortable thing to do would have just been leave the cart close to the car and jump in, get in the warm heat of the vehicle.
Right. Exactly. I used to. I can't remember. I think when I was a sophomore, I was asked to write an essay on what would make me happy in life, and my essay I wrote on the state of being satisfied. I thought being satisfied was what was going to make me happy in life.
What year? How old were you?
I think I was a sophomore. I think
Okay.
if I remember,
That's a pretty introspective thing to write about, though.
Yeah,
being satisfied. It's kind of a abstract thought, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But
I mean, you're not surprised. I mean, you were a genius in school, so it's like you look at me like, well, yeah. What are you talking about?
No,
I worry about things like that all the time.
I wasn't smart because I spent most of my study halls on the baseball field, not studying. But I think what in the idea of comfort comes to mind there. A lot of people say, I just would like to be comfortable in life, or I make enough money to be comfortable in life, or something like that. And I feel like as we're talking about good being the opposition of great. I feel like comfort is that indicator of where you're at in life. And if you're comfortable, maybe you're not doing what you need to do to take that next step. And I would say on top of that, the idea of being great, you have to practice good habits. You have to practice good behaviors consistently.
Yeah.
So that going back
there's
to
a mouthful right there.
Yeah, right, exactly. And go back to what you did with that cart. People, you say people might poo-poo it a little bit, and that's good. But however, that's how you be great, of doing those good things.
Yeah, those little small things.
Every opportunity you have.
Yeah. Let me read you a passage here from a book. Several years ago, I don't remember how many years ago I read it, but I think it was published in like 2001. There was a book that was written by a guy named Jim Collins. He's a sort of a business leader type of author. He does a lot of research on businesses to find out what makes them successful. I think he had a previous book prior to this one was Built to Last. Became very top #1 bestseller, and this book also did very, very well. It's called Good to Great. So exactly what we're talking about here. But he begins the book, chapter 1 begins by saying this. This is the title of chapter 1, in fact. Good is the enemy of great. And then he says, and that is one of the key reasons why we have so little that becomes great. We don't have great schools, principally, because we have good schools. We don't have great government, principally, because we have good government. Few people attain great lives in large part because it is just so easy to settle for a good life.
Yes.
The vast majority of companies never become great precisely because the vast majority become quite good. And that is their main problem. And then he does a ton of research on companies that have achieved the greatness status, and then how they got there, how they stay there. And so the book is a very, very heavy book on for business. But I love the concept and the idea there of good being an enemy are maybe the main enemy of great. And I know that not everybody likes that. Not people, over the years, I've commented. I did a little search on that phrase in Twitter, and people have said, "Oh, that's cliche." Good is actually a building block to great, and so it's not an enemy of great. I've seen a lot of things like that, but I don't think that the point is taken away by. I don't think these people truly disagree. You know what I'm saying?
They don't. And what he's speaking to there is the perception.
Yeah.
The disposition of a person in regards to how they feel about those two things.
Right.
Being good at something is good. Right.
Yeah. I mean, well, when you live in a world where, there's a lot of average out there.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And if you grow up in a place and, among teammates and among people that are okay with even mediocrity and average, then being good at something is seen as, well, you're all right.
Right. But is not reaching your potential good? Mm-hmm. That's the question I think you got to ask.
Yeah.
How good is it that you don't become what you have the ability to become? That's kind of a tragedy, not a travesty. It's not. There's nothing funny about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that statement, good is the enemy of great, comes in. Don't be comfortable being good if you have the ability to be great. You got to strive for that.
Yeah, and I think that concept also kind of begs a question that people might be thinking, well, is it even possible for everyone to be great? Or
Sure.
Do you, and maybe we should ask ourselves this question: do you believe that people who achieve greatness are just inclined that way, inclined to be that way, like they're great because they're always great, everything that guy does, just he's great at it, right?
Yep.
Or they have like a greatness gene; it just comes natural to them.
Absolutely.
Is that what we believe, right? Like, what does it take to achieve greatness status?
Yep.
Or are you just given that status? You're chomping at the bit over there.
Yeah, because here's the thing. You taking those carts back to the cart area doesn't make you a great cart person.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it may. You might be a great cart person because of that. If that was your job, that was your role, you might be great at it. But the reason you do that really isn't because I have a passion and a purpose to get this cart back to where it is. The reason you do that is because you want to be a great person. And in order to be a great person, you have to practice being great in everything that you do. So,
yeah, that's a great point.
I do think that everybody has something about them, something in this world that they can be great at.
Yeah, I do too.
But only approaching one thing in life and with the focus of being great at that one thing, I think that's difficult to make you great. I don't think that's going to be enough to make you great. I think you got to do the small things.
That's a great point.
Joe Burrow made the point the other day. You showed me the video, the conference, the press conference.
It was just from the press conference from this past weekend's game.
Yeah, and he was talking about what helped him as a NFL quarterback, right? What helped him in a certain situation that he was facing as the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. And he talked about playing multiple sports when he was in high school.
Yeah.
So that that idea of being a baseball player and being a basketball player, he pulled from that experience to help him be better than what he might be. But he, obviously we know he wants to be. He has a drive, a passion to be a great NFL quarterback. But it's those little things that he does every day of his life that helps him do that. So, there's a reason that you would strive to do everything in greatness, even if you never make it to that level. You strive to be great in everything that you do. That elevates you in other areas of your life. It
does. Yeah. How many times have we talked about how one area, getting somebody, if our goal as coaches is to help help our athletes and our players and our students to be good people in all aspects of life, then it gives them a better opportunity to be a good player on the field as well.
Yep.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Firm belief.
That quote from Joe Burrow was this: I've put myself in these situations in my head over and over and over again. I think growing up being a 3-sport athlete helped me a lot, just competing over and over and over again. Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, you put yourself in those situations, eventually you're going to be comfortable in the situations and you're going to be able to perform. Comfortable meaning you're not going to stress out.
Sure.
When the opportunity presents itself for you to do something great, you're not nervous about it. You're not stressing out. You've been, I've been here before.
Yeah, and
I
that's
can do this.
because over the years he has experienced discomfort in certain situations when he had to say, okay, I've got to go. I've got to compete.
Right. I think the idea of good being an enemy is, if you're already pretty good at something that you want to be great at, I think being pretty good at it can sometimes make it harder to move to great from that pretty good to great, because you have this, well, it's almost like you said, this satisfaction of being pretty good, you know. And I think, one of the things that maybe we could do here, and we always try to, steer our conversations in this direction, is how can we make this really, really practical? Like what are some symptoms, for example, of being stuck in good? Like, how do I know if this is where I am? Like if I'm constantly settling for good or very good as our highest effort, then how do I really know that? That's when good becomes your enemy. If you're settling for good as your highest effort, or really good even as your best effort, then that's when you're like, nope, that's not where you want to be. It's not where you want to be.
And how do you know that? I was thinking about this on the way up, and I was just going through my head. How do you know? Because I think most kids you talk to, most young athletes will tell you they want to be great at the sport they're playing.
Yeah.
If you ask them, do you want to be good or you want to be great? They'll say great.
Yeah. If you gave those as option A and B, the majority of kids would say, I want to be great.
Right.
Why would you not? Why are you playing if you don't want to be great at it?
Exactly. Yeah. I think most would say that. But the question is, the follow-up question is, what are you doing?
Are you doing anything to get there?
Yeah. And then, for me as a parent or as an athlete, I would want to know, well, how do I know?
Yes.
How do I know I'm doing what I need to do to be great?
Yeah, because right now, listening to this podcast, I might actually think that I'm doing those things.
Sure.
That I'm there, or that I have done those things, and that I'm now on the path to greatness. I've laid the groundwork, and so there I am.
Do you have a thought for that? You got an answer?
I've got 10 ways.
10?
I got lists. I'm a list guy. I come in here with lists, right?
Yeah.
I think 10 ways. Just 10. I came up with 10 ideas, 10 thoughts, 10. I was basically just writing them down before we came in here. If there are practical ways for us to be great, what would they be? And they're not like big, profound things. They're things that you and I have talked about before.
It's not a profound path.
Right. But I'll give you the first one.
Okay.
Because I put this first because it's going to sound really odd, but here it is. Be selfish.
Interesting.
If you're going to make it, and don't turn the podcast off yet, because you got to hear number 2. I'm like, wow, I can't believe that he said that. Did he say he's a Christian? Right. But listen, the reality is you got to take time for yourself.
You do.
You really do. I mean, you have to set, if you're not ever setting aside time to work on yourself, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
One reason why is because you're probably going to burn yourself out eventually. You've got to sit down, evaluate your own personal goals. What do I want to achieve? I think we should start there. I really do. Because you're going to be a lot better at the next 9 things if you take a moment and say, okay, who do I really want to be?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. Yeah.
Look inside for a minute.
You know, that's probably a question. That's probably a question that parents need to ask their kids, especially in a situation where things aren't going exactly as expected.
Yeah.
You know, before we take it to the coach or, you know, the superintendent or the school board or you know,
Right.
whatever pathway we do as parents, is that's a question that's a good conversation to have there.
The best place for any of us to ever start is holding up a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want?
When you see a problem on a team, in the world,
Oh, my.
in your family,
Yeah.
you know what? You know where you should start? Hold up a mirror,
Yeah, absolutely.
look at yourself, and ask yourself, what am I doing to contribute to the solution of this problem?
Yes. Or
The other way.
take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff, Coach. I can't disagree with that.
Okay.
What's number 2 though, to get our listeners back?
Be a servant.
Yeah.
The best advice that I think you'll ever find on greatness is from Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And his disciples actually asked him this very question. I mean, they were arguing over who's the greatest, right?
Right.
We see, I think, a couple of different Gospels, Mark and Luke both record this. John, I think maybe all 4 of them recorded this
Yeah, I
this
thought John
particular
did.
encounter, because it happens more than once. It actually happened while they were walking from town to town at one point, and then it happened even in the Last Supper, and before Jesus went to the cross to die. They were
true.
arguing over it in the Last Supper.
Yeah.
But and here's what I love about this argument. This is something I just noticed. I mean, it's funny, you could read the Bible all your life and then you see something new and fresh. When I was going through the Gospel of Luke with our church, I noticed this and I went, this is really fascinating to me. You know that Jesus doesn't rebuke them for wanting to be great? He just reforms their idea of it.
Huh.
He
Yeah.
doesn't ever say, you will never find Jesus saying, don't pursue greatness. Don't pursue greatness. But he answers their question because they want to know who is the greatest. Who's the greatest? Which is essentially saying, how can I get there? Right?
Right.
Well, Jesus' answer is not, well, don't pursue that. That's the wrong pursuit. And I think the reason why his answer is because it is a good pursuit. And why are you and I talking about it? Because it's a noble pursuit. It's something that we should all desire and attain. But what he says is, here's who's the greatest. The greatest is the one who serves others. It's backwards from what the world says greatness is.
Yeah.
But everyone who does this in the world is looked at as there's something special about that person. There's something special about that lady. There's
Yeah.
something special about that kid. You know, they're always, you know, why? Because you're not just contributing then to your own pursuit of greatness. You're contributing to others to do the same. And that's why I think 1 and 2 really need to go together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. I think we talked about this before. Actually, I gave a sermon on it at your church one day. And I mentioned Jesus as a carpenter, which, you know, if we study a little bit, we know he wasn't just a handyman. He was a specialist,
Right.
You know, someone that,
Right.
you know, that was really good at what he did, and he used, you know, certain materials that not every person in that, you know, at the time would be able to do. And I don't know that, you know, when you think of Jesus as a carpenter, do you think he was a good carpenter? Or you think he was a great carpenter?
That's a really great
I think
thought.
you have to think he was a great carpenter, right? And he spent a lot of time, you know, trying to be a great carpenter. It just doesn't make
the majority of his life on earth.
Yes.
That's what he did.
Exactly. Well,
that's-
and, you know,
his ministry was 3 years long. He
Yeah.
died at 33, right around there, right? Died and resurrected. I mean, so what did he do before that? He was just faithful at being the best he could be at that job.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
A lot of great example there. I mean, you know, that people wouldn't necessarily consider, you know, who aren't God sent, you know, Bible believing people or whatever, but there's such
a story.
wisdom there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is.
Right.
There
I
is.
think, for anyone out there that isn't, a believer, and we've said this before, there's lots of lessons that you can take from Scripture. That's one of the reasons why it's such a great
And
collection.
Here's a secret. We wouldn't be 111 podcasts in if we didn't know those things. Like if we didn't, because we get our topics of conversation. They are rooted in these biblical concepts.
Yeah.
I really believe.
Yeah.
They're not all, you're not going to find them in the Bible. You're not going to find chapter and verse.
Not all of them, right?
But I think because you and I are rooted there, I think it makes it a lot easier to say, people ask, people say, well, how do you guys think of all these things to say? You talk about all the time. It's endless. It's endless. I mean, the ideas are endless when you have a faith that promotes the same type of things that you and I talk about. It's a daily walk. It's not just, well, here's our list of ideas and we run out, I guess the podcast is over. It's a daily walk.
Yeah.
And so you get something new every.
And so the secret's out there that, really we're just kind of being a little bit selfish. Doing this
There
podcast.
you go. While at the same time serving.
There we go.
Right. All right, moving on. Number 3, be different. I love the way Tony Dungy puts it. His title of one of his books is Uncommon.
Yeah.
And the whole gist is people who attain extraordinary status in anything that they do rarely fit any kind of mold. And so that is you as a person. Athletes who achieve extraordinary status don't fit a mold. Coaches who achieve it don't fit a particular mold. There's just something, everybody else is doing this. And the reason why people who are great aren't doing the same things that everybody else is doing is because most people aren't great.
Yeah. Do you think that's because people are comfortable with being good? The large majority of people are comfortable with being good?
Yeah.
And
therefore that becomes the common, right? That becomes that's common. Good is common.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of Joe Burrow references in this, isn't there? Because what did he talk about the other week when they swept the Steelers? They asked him how good's it feel to sweep the Steelers, or what's it mean to the organization to sweep the Steelers, and it means we're 2-0 against the Steelers.
Yeah.
We've got bigger aspirations.
We've got bigger goals and bigger aspirations, yeah.
So being different. I think
Well, because the common Bengals fan is satisfied with sweeping the Steelers.
right.
Right?
There's a Baker Mayfield conversation in there too. It's not exactly as positive as the Joe Burrow, because a lot of people out there argue that Baker's a good quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, but the question is, can he be a great quarterback?
Yeah.
And do you maintain the good at the risks of trying to find the great? And that's the question that the Browns organization's going to have to ask themselves in the next year or two. But
Yeah.
4.
Number 4. Moving on. Practice. Practice.
Yeah. And
practice.
Yeah.
Just keep saying it.
The small things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The small things is what you need to practice.
Yeah. There's no way around it. I mean, you can't leave out a pursuit of greatness. You can't leave out this point when talking about a pursuit of greatness, because the reality is greatness and excellence cannot ever be achieved without hard work. It just can't.
Yeah.
And so there's just no exceptions. Hours and hours of practice and deliberate practice.
Yes.
Good practice, perfect practice.
I saw a tweet from Coach Lilich, Aaron Lilich. Said a lot of kids think once they've done something good, they're done. Once they've done something good, they're done. They've accomplished that and want to move on. And the point is, once you've accomplished something good, if you think about your path as a player, your path don't doing anything to get good at something. You start and you're failing a lot.
Yeah.
And then you do it one time right. But you're not satisfied because you want to do it more than one time right. You know what I mean? So you continue to practice. Now you're doing it 2 and 3 times right, within 10 tries, and you just continue to add to that, and eventually you get to the point where you're good at it. You can do it good, 90, 99 out of 100 times. But it's at that point where now you try to start replacing those goods with great, and you just continue to become better. And again, not satisfied with doing it one time good.
Yeah.
But now, okay, I did it one time great. How many times can I do that?
Yeah.
Just continue to build and build.
And that's
build.
how you stay great. You
Yeah.
just keep building it. Yeah. I mean, and listen, there's just no other way. There is never, ever, you're not going to find anybody in the realm of greatness that has not worked hard for it. Regardless of what our society tells you, just because you have a blue check mark beside your Twitter profile, your Instagram profile,
Right.
does not, people who have that, they're not great. Fame and greatness are not synonymous terms.
That's true.
Popularity and greatness are not synonymous terms. Just because someone has a video that goes viral doesn't mean that person's a great person.
That's true.
Or has done anything great. Really, to be quite honest, they happen to capture something that was a phenomenon for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Reality, and then they stick, and then they post underneath it. Hey, while you're here, check out my SoundCloud.
Right, I've seen those.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean, I think we have to, I guess what we're trying to do here is redefine what greatness is for people who maybe have a false, perception of greatness and what it takes to get there. Just because you're popular doesn't mean that you're great.
That's fact.
It just doesn't mean you haven't done anything to become great.
True.
Yeah.
5?
Number 5. I have written down the right people. Surround yourself with people who are also not satisfied with just being good.
That's a good point.
With good enough.
People that make you better.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time. Mm-hmm. All the time. You know that they're better than you. That they are also pursuing the same thing that you are, and they're stretching you all the time. You're not the smartest person in the room. If you're always the smartest person in the room, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And I would say that goes back to what I said earlier about being comfortable. Because typically you're not, right? You feel challenged when you're not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
But too, the same point is what you're saying. If you surround yourself with people that have similar goals, but more important, a drive that you aspire to have, you're not gonna be comfortable a lot of times because you're gonna feel challenged, and I think that's goes back to the point of why we kind of do this podcast, why we record it and put it out there, because we know that when we say something and it's broadcasted, so to speak, to an audience, it comes to life a little bit more, and it kind of holds us to a standard.
Yeah, and there's a potential that there's the potential for somebody to get a hold of it or listen to it that is better at all these things than you and I.
That's true.
And so, in a way, there's this idea of, okay, I'm talking about things that I really want to strive to be, and I know that there are people out there who are already these things and beyond. What they could do much greater. They could have much greater podcast topics than you and I have. Not as elementary or whatever, because they've already achieved that. But I think with each one of these conversations, it helps to keep us moving forward toward those personal goals that you and I have. Sure. Even. Like if you're a high school student, a high school athlete, and you happen to be driving in a car with a group of buddies, look around. Are you the one guy? Are you the one guy or the one gal in that car that who's got the biggest goals in the car? I guess. And if that answer is you, find some new people to get in the car with. Find some new people to hang out with. You don't want to be the one with the biggest goals. You don't want to be like, it's just like the same as being the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be the one who is the only one among your group of friends that's always doing the right thing. It's always putting that cart back, right? That should be something that everybody you should be racing to get that thing.
That's a good point and a very heavy point.
It is.
I think you could.
One of the best things a high school student can do, this just says, to be honest, dump some of the friends you got. I mean,
yeah.
People you surround yourself with are the people that you're going to become the most like. Whoever you spend the most time with, you're going to be the most like that person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. Like I said, it's heavy.
It is.
You don't think it's not a comfortable thing to think about. It's not a comfortable thing to talk about.
No.
But there's legitimacy to it
Yeah.
for sure.
You've brought up a few times in this podcast, and we seem to bring him up all the time, and that's because Joe is a great example of all of these things that we talk about. And, Joe in high school was the best of the best.
Yeah. What did he do?
So there you go, right? That the only people he hung out with were people who had that same aspiration. So in high school, you wouldn't see him with, for lack of a better word, a loser, right? Someone who has no desire, who just always makes poor choices. That's just the way they live.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. But here's the other thing. I think to keep himself sharp, he wasn't. I mean, this was you're also. You're looking at the next, who's at the next level where I want to be, and you're going to those places as well and doing those things and going to those camps and there's just, if you happen to be the best of the best among your group of peers that you're around all the time, you got to find other ways to get around people that will challenge you. And sometimes that might be, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of the time, it's an adult mentor. That's something that I think is becoming a lost value in our culture, because people tend to have this immediate false judgment that an older person hanging out with a younger person is creepy.
Yeah.
Isn't that, I mean, like if I were to take a 15-year-old guy, young man under my wing as like a big brother, big sister program, I'm a 49-year-old, man. Look, what day are we living in, right?
Yeah.
People would say, what's going on there?
Is that immediate?
A lot of people's first thought would be, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Why do I always see Chris walking over there on the college green with that young man?
Yeah.
There was a day when having a mentor and learning under a mentor, learning how to not just do math problems and put together grammatically correct sentences, but learning how to make good decisions in life and how to live a wise life was something that it really could only be done under a mentor.
Yeah.
The whole
That's what a squire was, right?
Yeah, the whole structure of a lot of schooling back in the day was a discipleship type of structure where you would choose a teacher to just sit under, and you literally would leave everything and follow that person.
Yeah, not just from a skill perspective, but
right. Yeah. You'd watch them cook dinner.
Point.
You'd watch how they
And I think the what you say there, that perception, that judgment that people are willing to, the people that are willing to fill that role of a mentor, that judgment and perception dissuades them to do that,
because they know what it looks like to, I don't know, I mean, the media
well, that's what I was going to say. I thought maybe even the media, because it's like
drives that kind of stuff.
Any type of conversation like that can be so sensationalized.
Yeah.
And we hear about them when they are.
Right. Right.
So, it makes it more tough. I'm not blaming the media for that. I'm just saying, in the world we live in now, stories like that are, more available. They're more known. And, definitely, I mean, there's obviously a threshold, because, there's human trafficking issues that we're facing in the world today. There's obviously, sex ring, sex trafficking rings, things like that that are an issue. But that what we're saying is because of those fears, we're eliminating something that might be, causing us, our society, some issues as we go along.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what are we going to do to fix that? That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Man, it's a tough challenge for for people that have a genuine desire to serve.
Yeah.
Because that you're up against some challenges.
Right.
You're up against some possible pitfalls there.
Right.
But you got to be careful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, you're always moving, either forward or backward, and the people that you're around are helping you go one of those directions.
Absolutely.
That's just so get around the right people.
Yes.
Number 6, passion. It's it's the fuel that you need.
Yep.
To get you where you want to be.
Yep. That was one of the things that I was thinking about, coming up, because in my conversations with parents, it's, what can I do to make my kid better at something? And it's not really rocket science. I mean, it's not really hard. If your kid commits to getting better, there's a lot of different ways they can do that, and they will get better if they commit to it. But you can't make them commit to it.
Right.
What you can do, though, you can impact their passion.
Yes.
And if they're passionate about something, they'll adopt that work ethic to get better at it because of that passion. Mm-hmm. So, for me, that was a big thing. Encouraging passion, nurturing passion about something. Because that's what gets you where you want to be. So yeah, I completely agree with you gotta have passion, and you know what? Some people have passion for things naturally, certain things, right? They find it themselves. Sure. It's brought on by certain experiences and maybe certain people, and not necessarily something that was given to them intentionally.
Right.
But it's very important to have that, and I think that's part of the selfishness and the evaluation, and looking within. That's the question: what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
And if you're not passionate about something, maybe you should look for something else that you're passionate about, because it makes it difficult to be great.
Well, if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to be great at that thing.
Yes.
Whatever that thing is.
Exactly.
So either find it or find where it is, because you have passion for something. Just go find it.
Yes.
And make sure it's a positive thing.
Well, yeah, right. True. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good one. I like the passion.
Good deal. Number 7, eliminate distraction.
That's a good one for the day and age, isn't it?
It is. And, this is sort of in contrast to something I think you said earlier about don't have too much of a singular focus on something.
Where you want to do a bunch of things, good things to make yourself better.
Yeah, your whole life being great is not just a singular thing. It's something that you should be. It's your character. It's who you are all the time and everything you do. Well, when it comes to pursuing a particular thing that you want to be great in, then you need to narrow that vision. Sure. You need to narrow that vision. There are a lot of things that are distracting you from being great in whatever that thing is. So figure out what those things are. Take a look and log your time throughout the day, for example, and look back over the week and say, here's how much time I spent doing this, and write down literally everything. Be very, very specific about it. If you looked at TikTok for 30 seconds, write it down. Because you're not just looking at it for 30 seconds.
I'm not.
That's a rabbit hole. It's easy. I know. Netflix, whatever, and good things, not just bad things. Okay, I read these things, or I practiced this, this skill.
I think a good something to add to this when you're talking about distractions is you define a distraction by the value that it brings to you. What value does it bring? And you know what? There is some value for spending some time on TikTok now and then. There's some value in that, but how much value do you get out of spending, 6 hours on TikTok?
Yeah.
So you have to, you got to judge that. And that's why you're saying write it down. Write the 30 seconds down, because at the end of the day, those 30 seconds might add up to, 4 hours. And if you're doing, you're doing that every day,
people got to be honest with themselves. I agree. Everybody needs some time to wind down, right?
Sure.
You need a little bit of time to you can't be on all the time.
Yes.
You just can't be. I mean, even as much as you think Jocko Willink is on all the time, I guarantee you that guy winds down with something.
You have to.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you got to be honest with yourself, though. You don't need 3 hours to wind down. You just don't.
No, that's true. That's true. You mean in a day? At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, when you look, if you look back over your time, and you wasted 3 hours doing things that didn't help you achieve your goals, you took too long winding down. Whatever that means, or chilling. Whatever word you want to give to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not, especially at night. I mean, don't do it at night. It's hard. It's so hard to get really good rest and sleep as soon as you put your phone down.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that as much as anybody. It's like
It is.
it becomes this habit of looking at it, and there have been so many studies, very well known and respected studies of
the impact
on your sleep and your the REM that you're actually getting, the rapid eye movement sleep that is really helping you truly get rest, and how blue light and all that impacts it negatively.
Yep, sure. And I'd say for people out there, for athletes that are that have that 3 hour cool down, wind down period in their life, don't take it as us slamming you. You take it as an opportunity to get better at winding down.
Yeah. Right.
Continue
All
to
of
improve
this.
at that. Yeah.
Sure. So while you're eliminating distraction, let's go to number 8. Be flexible. So adaptability is going to be essential on the road to greatness.
Yeah,
and achieving it.
That's tough for me. I have a C. I'm on the DISC 360 assessment, personality assessment. I'm a C, heavy C, leaning S. So I like lists. I like everything planned out for me. I like my tasks.
I'm actually heavy on the C also.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. Well, we've talked about that before, as far as a baseball practice plan, or any practice plan. I like to go in, and I like to have.
If it feels like it's straying from that, and then
it starts to make me sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're right. The ability to be flexible, the ability to adapt. It's really you have to have that.
And why?
Because nothing's ever going to go as planned.
Exactly. Nothing goes as planned, and you can't control everything.
That's true.
And if you can't control everything, then having the ability to pivot from that and yet stay on course of what your goals are, that's an incredible skill. That's needed. That's needed. Be flexible. Number 9, be creative.
Okay.
There's never just one way, or even one thing for you to be great at. You mentioned this a minute ago, right? You may think that the thing that you want to be great at is, baseball, but maybe you're not going to ever achieve it.
Right.
But there's probably something out there. There definitely is something out there that you will be great at. And this is where that really difficult conversation comes into play with, when on days when you have to make cuts, when you have to sit somebody down and explain to them why they're maybe not getting the playing time that they desire. It's not that you don't belong here. You absolutely belong here. You just got to figure that. You got to figure that out for yourself. I've already figured it out. I know what your role should be, but you haven't accepted it yet. You haven't, but I always try, whenever I'm having a conversation like that with somebody, I always try to make sure that I include this, that even though you may not be as good at this as you want to be, and you may not achieve in this particular realm of life, this particular sport, what you want to achieve, your greatness is out there. It's out there somewhere.
I believe it. Yeah, I think
and you may
everybody
already know
has
what
that.
it is.
Yeah.
You may already know what it is, and you just need to do it. You don't have to give this up right now necessarily. Maybe you do, right? Maybe some people do, but it may not just be. It just may not be this.
And that's a good
think
word.
Outside the box a little bit.
Creative. And I think putting yourselves in situations where you're challenged to do a good job. The fact that let's take that example that you're using there. A person that wants to play, they want to start, they want to be on the baseball field, they want to be playing left field all the time, but they're a rotational player, they're a utility player. They get in, here and there when the situation calls for it. But being in that situation it's not where they want to be at the time.
Yeah.
However, that challenge, that experience, and what I would say, I think a flag that lets us know when we have an opportunity to be great, or when we're striving for greatness in the right way, is that discomfort.
Yeah.
Is knowing that we don't like the situation that we're in, but we're still going to go and do the best that we can. Right? We have, we're faced with a task that doesn't make us comfortable.
Yeah.
That maybe we don't really want to do at the time. We don't feel like doing. It's not ideal to us, and we still do it. That lets you know right there, when you make that decision to still do those things, that you're striving for greatness, and you're doing the things that you need to do to be great at something.
Yeah.
It might not be at that thing that you're struggling with at the time. It might not be at being the left fielder, but that experience and that practice of doing that thing, of facing that struggle, will carry over into something else that will help you get to where you want to be.
It's accomplishing something in you.
Yes.
For a future thing, another date or another time or another thing. Yeah, that's really good. Well, we need to probably wrap it up here. So number 10, the last one that I came up with before coming in here was this: set goals, and then plan your habits to align with your goals.
Yeah.
This might be the simplest explanation for why people don't achieve the greatness that they desire. It's just simply because I'll say this. One, their goals and their habits don't match.
Yep.
Or they don't have goals. They haven't thought about what it is they're wanting to achieve.
Goals are easy to come up with.
Goals are easy to come up with. It's the habits.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
I want to lose 50 pounds by the new year.
Easy goal.
Easy.
Easy to come up with. Easy to write on a calendar, right?
Yeah. How are you going to get there?
I'm sorry, you're not losing 50 by the new year. That's a couple weeks away.
No, I'm not now.
That's right.
I'm not losing any.
There you go. Well, especially not now, right?
No, I'm just saying, or people make that. That's a goal that for New Year's resolution goal is I want to lose X amount of weight this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's no thought into how what's the plan? What are we going to do?
The plan is the most important part.
So this is a James Clear.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
So one or the other has to change, right? I mean, if you're not getting there, either the goal's got to change. Either you got to say, this isn't the right goal for me.
Absolutely.
Or most likely it is the right goal for you. It's just the habits have to change.
Right.
Your habits have to match your goals. Either your habits need to change or your goals need to change. And the habits have to match your goals or you're not going to reach the goal.
Yep.
And I don't care what it is, that's the truth. And it's what's going to happen in your life.
That's good stuff. That's important to remember.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's not all that complex. It's just something that we don't, everyone's asked, what is your goal? People are quick to have goals. This is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But it's not talked about enough as, what am I going to do to get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the most important part.
Yeah.
It's the most important aspect of the whole goal.
No doubt.
Good, the enemy of great.
It can be.
Yep.
It can be. And I'd like to say this too. I think, looking back on, 110, now 111 episodes of this podcast and our 2.5 years, 5 seasons, basically 2 seasons, how you have 5 seasons in 2.5 years? Well, it's because we do a season and a half a year. Basically, a new season is we started in the summer, so that was season 1. Then season 2 became the new year,
right?
And then we just took basically 6 months.
We work just like Netflix does.
Yeah, right. We're seasonal. Yeah, so season 6 is coming up, and I think the reason why this conversation comes to mind for me at the end of a year is because as I look back and reflect on our year that we've had as people, as a human race. I mean, let's just include everybody in this.
Yeah.
It has become so easy to just settle with this is good enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I see that in myself. Can you remember what your one word was for this year? We do this one word challenge. Putting each other on the spot.
You don't remember?
I remember what mine is. Yeah.
I don't remember what yours is. Do you remember what mine is?
I don't remember what yours is. And I'll be really honest with you. I didn't think about it much this year. You know why? Because I was probably just doing enough to get by. I was probably just okay with every day, just doing what it just being good.
Yeah. I thought about mine often. A lot of times I wondered if I was doing it correctly. Yeah. My one word was execute.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah.
Mine was resolve. Yeah. Because we talked about, we're going to resolve to execute. That was our first episode of 2021.
Yep.
And I wanted to live with just resolve that I was confident what I was going to do. This is who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do. And I don't know. Maybe it was just a tough word to put into actual practice. But instead of doing resolutions, that's what Pat and I are talking about here. We just pick a word and try to align our lives to that word. Everything that we do in that year to be reminded of, this is my word for the year. This is who I want to be this year.
So you don't think you thought about resolve very much
consciously? No, I don't think I did.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think you followed that.
Well, you always try to, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
time to do it again.
Yeah.
Time to do it again. Yeah. Yeah. And I just don't want to I don't want to see us have another year where we get bogged down by so much negativity that we're just okay with good. Because I think that's what happens. Mm-hmm. There's been so much negativity over the past 2 years. It's been 2 years now. 2 years. And maybe, I guess what I need to do to stay out of that personally is point number, what was it, 6? 7, eliminate distractions. Got some distractions that you eliminate. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's all do that.
Let's all do it. Thank you all for listening to us in 2021. Thank you for the commitment that you've made to join in our conversations, and those of you who've given us ideas for new conversations. We really appreciate that, and we think that some of those actually have been some of our best episodes. Whenever we talk about things that are important to you.
Yeah.
And so we really would encourage more of that on the turn of the new year. And
for sure, it serves our purpose, because that's kind of what we set out to do is talk about things that are important to people. Yep. So we definitely enjoy that.
Yeah. Right. And it could be about whatever, because we talk about coaching, and we talk about life, and we talk about the coaching life.
There we go.
And we talk about coaching life. So there, any number of things, right? So Merry Christmas and have a happy New Year. If you're not celebrating Christmas, I'm sorry, don't know what to tell you. Hope you have a good weekend.
Yeah, I think he's talking to me, folks. How about definitely Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah.
Let's have a great 2022.